anyone watch it?
Hello, you're watching ScreenStalker. I'm Fakidor Laurie Blake. This is housemate Simon Longden. It is the end of E3 week, so we thought we'd do a bit of a wrap-up and do our winners and losers from the show. So, jumping right in, because we're quite pressed for time, because we've got quite a lot on today. Winner number one, streaming. The concept of streaming in general, because more than three people, I think, like there were three main people who said streaming is going to be the big thing. Xbox have xCloud, Bethesda talked about Orion from id Software, and there was also Google's Stadia. This, to me, seems like even more so than next-gen consoles, the actual legitimate future of gaming.
Well, weirdly, over this week, it seems to have been a sort of odd soft launch for Google Stadia. But it's just been on that little, when they showed the screen of like the bit of the legal stuff at the end of a bit of gameplay or whatever, just has the little logo there. Just like Xbox PS4. It's just quite weird how it's just sort of, I guess that's just a thing now, without anyone ever really saying anything.
Well, considering they barely had any games at their actual, like, pre-E3 reveal thing. The games were basically missing. It was mostly just about pricing structures and kind of how you're going to get the streaming to work. But yeah, apparently everyone's on Stadia now. So
yeah, it's interesting that more and more games are still moving towards the idea of massive multiplayer, lots of connectivity and all that kind of stuff. There's, games, more even stuff like Fallout getting a Battle Royale mode. Everyone's moving towards more and more online again. There seems to be there's been this other surge of it. But when it comes to actually streaming a game, like with PS Now, say, none of that's... Not many people have strong enough internet to really make that really work in a way that's... Like, you couldn't play Apex on PS Now.
no.
Most people could. I'm sure but lots of people can, but most people couldn't. Even in the UK, we still struggle with broadband speed. So... I don't know. It's interesting to see how it's actually going to get utilised by the bigger companies.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by it because I feel like it should be the legitimate future. Like, I actually think the kind of like what the box is going to be for the new Xbox, what the new PlayStation is going to be, is kind of irrelevant in a world where Google are having this proposition where you can stream a game to your whatever you're using right now, but you use the power from Google's headquarters to power that game. So the game can kind of come to you at whatever they can power it, however powerful it is there.
Whatever that thing is.
It's just, whatever supercomputer they're using they're using HAL from Space Odyssey,
Well, I guess they'll just send it through the telly.
Yeah.
So you'll buy a Google...
You buy a Google Chrome. You can use a Chrome. You can use... It can just be on your... If you've got an Android device, it can just be on your Android device.
But this is
on
like...
your computer.
Well, you're talking of Xbox. This is kind of a bit of a bugbear of mine. So they're talking about all the physical capabilities of their hardware. Google are talking about, you'll be able to stream 30-person multiplayer Battlefield matches through a Google Chrome Fire Stick, whatever that thing's called. But no, you can't, because no one's got the fastest internet, and there's no point having 10K capability, because you can't... People aren't even producing television in 4K regularly yet, apart from sports. So where is this market for 10K streamed content? I don't see where it's coming from yet. We don't have the technology.
Well, they do. They've got it there.
Google have it.
Yeah, but that's because 10K is entirely in your mind. It's a field of dreams, is what it is. Yeah, you have to unlock it. Through Tantra. I think streaming was a winner though, because I do just feel like everyone is slowly positioning themselves where that will be kind of the dream future. I think for most people is that you can just play something wherever you are, whatever you've got to hand, and you can carry on your game on whatever you're doing. So if you happen to be at your dad's house and he's got a Chromecast, boom, you're playing something. If you happen to be at work and you've got lunchtime, you can just do it on your work computer.
Is there also a thing where it must be better for...
Although your work computer's clearly on Windows XP. We all know. Ain't nobody on modern Windows.
If you're a developer, are you excited by it? Because does that mean that there is a future where, as a developer, I develop a game and somehow there's like a sort of Independence Day style linking up of like my studio to Google, who then ping it to. So does it kind of open up the architecture in a way that currently isn't?
So Google have been saying that it does make developing games easier because you can kind of do it all. You can do that through streaming as well. I think is kind of
live updates and
sort
stuff.
of what they were, kind of what they were getting at with it. I think. I'm
So
not
they would just
entirely
update.
sure.
They would just
I mean,
update
it
one
mostly
machine.
mostly sounds like magic to me. I don't really understand.
So you could do. So rather than sending you a patch, I just update my version of the game.
And everyone else
and then
gets the patch,
whilst you're streaming it, it just happens because you're streaming it.
Yeah,
it's like
I
a
guess
live.
so.
Yeah,
But I guess if it goes down, it goes.
Someone pull us up on that. Cause
I'm sure it really goes down if it goes down. Let's do a loser anyway to balance the scales.
Okay.
One of my losers for E3 2019, gameplay. Because there basically wasn't any.
One of my favourite things about games is playing them.
Yeah.
It's in the top 5, and apparently not an issue for most of.
I just like collecting the boxes.
Yeah, I just like the boxes.
Yeah, that's it. It was a very weird E3 for gameplay because loads of people had trailer. There was loads of announcements of stuff. Like Microsoft did like Elden Ring, and Nintendo showed off a bit of stuff, and Bethesda announced 2 new games, but we don't know what they play like or what.
No.
Like I think CG trailers were past the point where that really feels good enough anymore.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like a mood board now. And I think to be so deep into the console cycle, especially with PlayStation and Xbox, and to not have gameplay when we know that new stuff is, like, new consoles are on the way, it feels just a bit weird. Like, you're now just in that phase of, like, well, is this game just going to come out on the next-gen ones? And that's why we're not seeing gameplay.
Well, this is the thing.
Like, when is this going to come out? Is it just going to come out in the hinterland of, the very last days of PlayStation 4 and Xbox One?
Well, that seems because everything is sort of getting pushed to March next year, right? Middle of next year is going to be.
Yeah.
So by the time we get
E3 next year is just going to be. 7 games came out this week, so there's no point going.
Yeah, but I guess what did we get? What were like big things we got gameplay for? Breakpoint had a lot of gameplay, more gameplay actually than because E3 is known for delays and not showing stuff, but this was like off the scale, not showing stuff. But Breakpoint has shown loads of gameplay and actually had people doing stuff. But then again, that is just essentially an update to quite an old game.
Yeah.
Now that's not the same. That's not like a brand new IP.
So I think one of my other winners was Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy VII, the remake, showed off loads of gameplay, and like its reveal as part of Square Enix's conference was about a 15-minute gameplay demo in which they did a couple of battles, which basically showed off how the battling system works because it's been completely revamped from the original game, and did a big boss fight and showed off all this stuff. That got a really good response from people in the crowd. One, because it's Final Fantasy VII and people are crazy obsessed with that game. But 2, because it was actually like, this is what it is. Because people, I think prior to that, it kind of felt like it was almost more of a straight remake. And then to see the revamped combat system, it starts to make sense that, it's sort of an action game that then has the RPG elements plugged into it. So you attack to build meter to do the RPG bit of the game, and then you can slow time and make your choices, and it kind of plays out like that. It's a bit more of it's a very modern reading of turn-based battling, basically.
Well, it's strange because to go to a massive game conference and not show gameplay, it's like the difference between going on Dragon's Den and actually owning a company.
Yeah.
It's like one of them's just like a sort of pitch. And if you just show me like it's like showing old FMVs, in the early 2000s or whatever. Like, I don't know what to do with that information. Like, what is that? Is it a movie? Like what? Show me something tangible we've actually achieved. So I was interested to see. Like, I was actually surprised they showed Star Wars footage.
Well, it's coming out so soon though. They have to. Like, they really had to.
I know, but I just didn't think they would.
What?
It just seemed like. It felt like one of those games that had the classic narrative of, we got embargoes till 2 hours before launch. No. I just thought it was going in that. It felt like it was trending that direction. And
I think EA have just had a remarkable indifference towards E3 this year, and they tried to get out ahead of it by revealing all that stuff. And I think it just got lost in the shuffle, Jedi Fallen Order, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I think it's weird that stuff like Marvel's Avengers didn't really, like, they were like what felt like moments of gameplay in that reveal. But that was like a 15-minute reveal, which probably had about 15, 22, like I think it was 22 seconds someone totted up of actual what felt like gameplay reveal where you see the Avengers fighting on this bridge. And it's like, I get that it's not coming out until next year. But show what the game plays like, because that's the only thing that I like, sure, it's got a really big narrative that you've crafted using internal Marvel people. You've got very famous voice actors to do all the roles. You've messed all the faces up. But there's also Marvel Ultimate Alliance. So surely you want to differentiate yourself from the other Marvel game being shown at this show. Like, just tell us what the game plays like, because that's the only way we're going to know if it's like truly different or whether it's really worth sort of holding out hope for, I think.
I mean, there's that. And the other issue is, can we stop filling auditoriums with your own staff to scream at your game?
Those are the real losers are crowds.
That Marvel, that's a big loser, crowds. Because the Marvel one was just full of employees who were screaming the literal like names of their colleagues. Yeah.
Crystal Dynamics!
Christ. It was awful. I
actually don't like E3 press conferences anymore. I'd rather everyone did it like Nintendo and there was no audience feedback or participation anymore. Just we're past the day and age where we need people to whoop and cheer. People will do that at home on their own.
Yeah.
And then they'll upload it to Twitter. Or they'll just make that gif of that bar popping off and put it on the screen and that. Yeah. That's it. They'll just do that.
They'll do that.
Let's go back to winners. Final Fantasy VII we had. Nintendo fans, I feel like, were winners coming out of E3 2019 because, surprise, surprise, Nintendo showed off actual gameplay for things. We said in our video the other day, though, that I felt like their presentation had some very high points of excitement. But overall, I felt it was a little bit like, even though it was like game after game, would you shut up, Randy? Randy is coughing in the room. I felt like they had some high points throughout their presentation, but overall, it kind of felt a bit flat. But I think because the games that were being shown were very safe Nintendo property. So it's very much like Luigi's Mansion, you understand what that's going to play like. Animal Crossing, while, a really great big reveal, it's not an exciting game to look at, is it? It's a fun game. It's really fun to play and super satisfying. But it is also a sort of game that I think a lot of people play for about half an hour a day. So there's only really so much of it you can show because it's actually limited in terms of you make a town, you do this, blah 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 blah. Like the new little features were cool to see, but I would never go Animal Crossing is like it's going to be a blistering trailer, man. Like you're going to love this.
It's just literally just the information that it exists is kind of the start and end of that reveal.
Exactly, yeah.
I thought it was cool though that they just went, let's just do the stuff that they've asked for.
Yeah,
I think make it.
Well, that was the cool. I think that's the cool thing about Nintendo. They just did. They basically went and did what they said they were going to do, and then chucked in the fact that Banjo-Kazooie are coming to Smash Bros, which is, I think, for like retro Nintendo fans, one of the highlights of all E3s. Like there's that clip of the Nintendo World Store, I think in the US, where Banjo-Kazooie were revealed, and people just went crazy watching that go live, which is really fun. And I think there was also like a lot for other old school fans of Nintendo, because there was also like Cadence of Hyrule, which is basically like musical Link to the Past. There was the collection of Mana being released on the same day. Panzer Dragoon was announced, all that kind of stuff. And then they end the whole thing with Breath of the Wild 2 or the direct sequel to Breath of the Wild being announced.
It was cool. It was like when you get to the end of like Guardians of the Galaxy, they go, they will return, kind of thing. Like in the second one, they haven't even. It's quite a cool little like. No, we're just letting you know we're going to develop that.
We're doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the first cutscene or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like. It felt like an opening cutscene kind of reveal, but super super exciting for Nintendo fans, I think. And I think also not just having the direct where you go, here's all the games. I think Nintendo's general approach to E3 and just going like, we're going to go ham on it. And we're going to have 3 days worth of live streams with the Treehouse guys. Because I've probably watched 6 hours worth of Nintendo live streams this week. And then the direct on top of that. So probably 7 hours worth of live streams of just them playing the games, getting a feel for them and understanding what they are. And I think now I've got a really good grasp of what to expect from all the things coming out for the rest of the year, plus some of the stuff that was on their show floor, like Hollow Knight Silk Song. They've just done a gameplay video for, which is really exciting. But it's just they managed to make you excited by kind of just pitching things perfectly. I think concentrating on the gameplay, really showing you in depth what the games are about. Whereas everyone else is just going like, get excited because it's a mood board.
And there is something about the sort of overall design philosophy of Nintendo games that allows them to sort of do that. So it's quite cool. They still sort of continue to just do their own thing in their own way, and no one else can do that really. So that's pretty cool.
They made a couple of boo-boos though, and I think I'll put them in losers. These two bits in losers for that. One, Animal Crossing has been delayed until March. Which apparently that news caused a $1 billion drop in their share prices over at Nintendo.
Which is so strange. I just can't imagine what I don't see. This is the thing. So I don't think anyone who invests in Nintendo saw that and actually was selling stock. I think the stock market black boxes that follow Google Trends and read articles automatically and buy and sell. I think they just saw the word delayed because it was used so often.
It's just automatic.
It's just automatically dropped it, and then it'll buy it all back again.
But Zelda.
Yeah, well, it's not now though, is it?
It's not coming out now. It's probably I think next year, but not this year at all. But then also Nintendo got into hot water because it was announced that in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, not all of the Pokemon will be available in those games.
Fine.
Which I think is fine. I'm very much on the bandwagon of I don't really care. Like I was never going to catch them all. I haven't been able to catch them all since the second generation because it's too many things. There's too much. It's too many things.
If that was the only goal of the game, if that was the only satisfaction to be had from the game, that's one thing. But that's clearly not true.
No.
And there's probably very good reasons why they have actually probably carefully selected the ones that are in there.
Well, so this is the thing. So Junichi Masuda said that part of the reason they've done that is because one, it's like this is the first in a sort of the modern iteration of Pokemon that's coming to the Switch. Like Let's Go was really a revamp of an old game with some new stuff thrown in. This is like the actual vision for what Pokemon will be going forwards. It's got new things like the wild area, which work completely differently, the raid battles, the Dynamaxing, which is when you can turn your Pokemon massive. That must, like, to make that custom set of stuff for every single Pokemon would have been back-breaking work. To do that just for 200 Pokemon, which is about the number they seem to be suggesting will be in the Galar region Pokedex, seems like unfathomable amounts of work. And then people are just going, well, you know, like, what are you doing making the idle animations? Because the bunny just hops from side to side and then does this and this move happens.
Games are hard to make.
Games are hard to make. And like when you've got 800 different things, name a game that has 800 different enemies in it. Like nothing. I couldn't think of a game that has 800 different like
Dynasty Warriors.
Then but they are they are copy and pasted enemies. Like you can kill 800 people in a round. Yeah, sure, but they are.
I didn't mean that. Don't worry, everyone.
But I think the Pokemon fans were the losers here. I think for the people who got particularly up in arms about the Pokédex, and I understand. I definitely understand the ire, and I understand the fact that also all the Pokemon games and the announcement of it's not Pokemon Bank. What is it? It's called Pokemon something else. Pokemon Home or something that they announced at the Pokemon press conference before, which is basically a repository for all of your Pokemon, a central sort of cloud-based. You can store Pokemon from every single Pokemon game and Pokemon Go in this thing and trade it on your smartphone. I get that the messaging is now confused because they're saying on one hand, bring everything that you've ever had
and we'll put
from
it
here and put it here, which people then naturally assume means that from here you can take it to Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Which you might be able to at some point.
Well, they said that they're probably not going to do that. They definitely did say. But I feel like that's kind of, you have to at some point strip things back because it's only ever going to get bigger. It's only ever going to be more work.
Yeah.
And they want to make a Pokemon game every single year.
And at some point, stuff they came up with 10 years ago won't make sense because in their new
Jinx.
Like Jinx, yeah. So yeah, I don't have any problem with it at all.
So let's do the Pokebank. It was the Pokebank before. Pokemon Bank was the old one, which was on 3DS, but there's a new one that they've announced. I think it's called Pokemon Home or something similar. Let's do one final winner and one final loser. Ultimate winner of all of E3 and possibly 2019 itself. It's your boy, Keanu.
Who is going to be in Cyberpunk 2077 for about 40 seconds, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was what we saw in that trailer
is the
Keanu Reeves role. I think he gets shot as he goes over the hill after that.
I love watching celebs, particularly in games, have to pretend they know what's going on. It's just great. It was a lot of fun.
So I liked Keanu's involvement here because it just felt natural. I think like when everything else at E3 feels very stilted and generally speaking scripted to within an inch of its life, so that all the soul comes out of it and all the like.
Yeah, the Marvel one was bad.
Yeah, the Marvel was looking at the auto cue and having really like what felt like faux excitement. To see someone come on stage and be just really at ease delivering.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, just deliver. Yeah, I mean that's it. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't have that. Maybe he's actually excited for the game. You never know.
Yeah.
Maybe
he's a better actor than like Jeff from Overwatch.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So he just has to go on stage and, generally speaking, be himself. But I loved it. I loved the whole like someone shouting "You're breathtaking" at him, and he's like, "You're all breathtaking." What a moment! What a comeback for Mr. Reeves.
Can I throw in one other quick?
Go on.
One talking of actors. Do you see the Ubisoft stage was used to reveal the Rob McElhenney and Charlie Day executive produced new TV show?
Yes, I did.
That was weird, but also quite cool because I love It's Always Sunny. I think it was great. I just thought it was weird just to have like that's just an interesting crossover of content. It was cool.
Ubisoft have made little strides into television and stuff before, so they're clearly like. Let's keep their awe in with a lot of different stuff. Yeah. There was also I can't remember what her name is now, but she was the woman who works for Tango Games, and she was definitely another winner of E3 in the same vein as Keanu Reeves for just going on stage and just being herself. It was amazing. She was the most kawaii woman you've ever seen, and was just announcing. But she's announcing this like she works at Tango Gameworks with Shinji Mikami, and basically worked on like Evil Within, this Ghostwire, what's it called? Ghostwire something or other. Ghostwire Tokyo. Looks like this really moody horror psychological thing. And she's like, so excited to announce this game. It was just a brilliant like juxtaposition of styles.
You can do auditoriums right.
You can, yeah, if you pick the right people to do it and let them go off piece. And I think she's was tenured enough to be allowed to just sort of go out there and do it.
What's your loser?
My final loser, Bethesda. Oh, no, sorry, I don't want to do Bethesda. I want to do next gen.
Well, you don't want to do Bethesda for coming up doing a battle royale in the game that everyone hates.
Yeah, well, Bethesda's big apology. Or I feel like Bethesda's big showing to make amends for Fallout 76 was to go, oh, those NPCs we said we'd never put in the game that everyone complained about. Well, they're back.
Yeah. Also, that bit of the game that we made where all the stuff where you can bump into other players and it's all online, how that didn't work? Well, guess what? We've utilised that not working thing to do an online battle royale game.
I think they just had a very safe conference that was unremarkable, apart from Ghostwire Tokyo and Arcane's new game Deathloop, but they both suffered from the exact same thing, their gameplay. But I think the big loser was next gen.
Well, we'll have to wait till next year.
Yeah, well, I think that's the problem here is that we've had the details for both PlayStation 5 and Xbox's Project Scarlet, which is, as far as we know, two separate consoles. One to be like a standard box, and the other one to be an Xbox One X style advanced edition. There was also talk of having the next generation Nintendo Switch at E3, and that didn't happen either. So all we have to go on, really, is that we know the specs of these things, but we don't, and we know that Halo Infinite is coming to Project Scarlet, and that is about it. And I feel like we said this before on a video that it's sure you want to save that for next year and hype people up, But when you've got nothing, like when this year felt so flat because nothing really was being shown off properly, just revealing the name or a little bit more about it would have made it feel special. Because, like we were saying in the Microsoft video we did earlier this week, if the whole premise of the console is for it to be cross-generational, so things that you can play on Xbox One now, because of the cloud services and the streaming services and all this stuff that's going to be coming to the future of how you play games, these games don't get lost anymore. We're not losing backwards compatibility. We're going to have multi-generational compatibility, as far as I can tell. So you can still go. Project Scarlet's coming out next year, but this year you should be excited about this game, and get them for Christmas, because next year you can play them on this console. Yeah. Possibly up-resed or whatever.
Especially when it was Microsoft who so famously in launching the Xbox One messed up the second-hand marketplace anyway. So they could have done just a really fun nod to that era. Yeah. And gone, well, don't worry, we've learned everything, all this stuff that's coming out now. You can play it. You can still play it. Upgrade your console. Use it all. Give it to your friends. Whatever, you know.
Which it says to me that there's a surprising amount of stuff that has been sort of pushed into the tail end of the lifespans of both the PlayStation 5 and
this is what happened
PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And so we're now going to get a really next year seems like it's really jam packed full of games, but on consoles that will be dead within a year. Basically, not dead, but people still buy. People still bought the PS2 long after PS3 was out.
I do think the general trend is that there will be a lot more cross platform stuff going on, even between possibly Nintendo, Microsoft, and whatever else they've got up to. So I think all the themes of the last console generations of very specific exclusive stuff. It was all about exclusivity last time. It was about Microsoft's exclusive rights with the NFL. It was about Microsoft's exclusive rights to their games. It was a battle of the exclusives. Now I think that everyone's kind of come around to the idea that that's just not how the market works now, and you have to be ahead of that curve.
Nobody wants it anymore. I think Fortnite was probably leading the charge there by trying to get cross-play working across all platforms, and that's when Xbox and Nintendo got into bed together and said, we'll allow crossplay between these things on our consoles. And Sony was still being reluctant, and then have still very reluctantly come around to the idea. But I think you can either go one or two ways when the idea that everyone's going to form a streaming service is, because we're either going to end up in an arms race in the same way that we did with console exclusivity, but in the same way that also things like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Now TV, all of that stuff fights over random TV shows and stuff that's been on films and things like that. We're either going to get into that stage where people are just fighting over the licensing for games, and games are going to be like, this is launching on Xbox's game service and it's going to disappear off there after a while, and then you're going to get it on here. Is that what the future's going to be like? Because I would prefer a future where everyone was just talking, you could just play what you want where you want it through the provider that you want, then they have their exclusive games.
As long as everyone stops talking about crossplay between PC and console, because that's just the death of, specifically me on shooting games.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's what you don't want. Yeah.
That's what I think. And also, Sony must
you can have crossplay, but you can't use a mouse.
Yeah.
That's the rules.
But for Sony, there's nothing in it for them, because they've sold more consoles.
Yeah,
they have so sewn up the console market with this generation. There was never any reason for them to even consider
giving
it.
a bump. Yeah,
of course Microsoft want that, because they massively lost. So it's interesting to see how they are all going to navigate that in the next generation.
It definitely will be. Well, that is all we have time for discussing our E3 winners and losers. Please leave us a comment in the comments section to let us know what you thought won and lost E3. I've been Fakidor Laurie Blake. This has been housemate Simon Longden. And remember, we're watching.